Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today, doing the what's next on Devin Haney, the undefeated lightweight, WBC lightweight champion of the world, following another successful title defense as he cleanly outboxed and outclassed Joseph Diaz Jr. over 12 rounds to get a unanimous decision in that one. It was clear cut. You know, Diaz had his moments. He fought hard. He landed some good shots, and I've said it already a few times. If Joseph Diaz was a stronger puncher, he probably would have knocked Devin Haney out, because he caught Devin Haney with some good shots to where Haney felt the punch. He didn't get hurt, but he felt it. He was just kind of like back Devin Haney up, you know. And you know, Devin Haney is a very good boxer. He's getting better. He's only 23 years old, but his defense, I still question that, but he looks very good, and big things are ahead for Devin Haney. He's had one of the better years in boxing. He really has, beating Jorge Linares and then beating Joseph Diaz. Very successful year. My hat's off to him for that. And now the big question is, what's next for Devin Haney following that win? So, you know, obviously everybody wants to see him fight George Kambosos Jr., and he said he'd go all the way to Jupiter to make that fight happen. And even if they asked him, would you go to Australia, because Kambosos wants to make his first defense in Australia, and he said he'd go all the way to Jupiter for it. So, you know, that was funny, but it, you know, I applaud Devin Haney. That means he's fearless, and he wants to fight the best, and he's fought two top 10 guys, or floating around top 5 guys when he fought him, Linares and Diaz, and he's defeated both of them convincingly. So only a little bit of a controversy when it comes to the fight with Linares. I'm still going to call that out. You know, that he got hurt and he was allowed to hold on way more than he should have been, and he should have been deducted a point, and that might have changed the outcome, because he was hurt bad against Linares. But outside of that, he's shown very good boxing skill and ability, and he's won a lot of rounds between those two fights and really proved he's a top 5 guy. I have him at number 4 in what I believe is the second best division in boxing right now, lightweight. So let's run him through the top 10 and see what possibly could be next for the undefeated lightweight champion of the world, Devin Haney. So we start with number 1, George Kambosos Jr., the unified light heavyweight champion of the world. Obviously, this is the most desired fight right here for Devin Haney. He wants to fight Kambosos for the undisputed title. He's willing to go to Australia to make the fight, but we got to see what the WBC is going to do. Is the WBC going to grant their number 1 contender, Vasily Lomachenko, the shot? Or are they going to grant the other half of the belt? You know, because Kambosos is the franchise champion, which to me, that means he has about 3.5 of the titles. And Devin Haney holds the other half of that 4th world title. And, you know, I would love to see the WBC order this fight, but they could order Kambosos, or they could order Lomachenko, and the WBO also has Lomachenko as the number 1 contender. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I really think that Devin Haney's probably the second option right now, but there's a 3-way here, because Gervonta Davis is also in the mix, because the WBA is trying to reduce their belts down to 1 champion per division, and Davis is the regular champion and Kambosos is the super champion. So, and I'm waiting to see if they order that fight as well. So a lot of moving pieces here. I think Devin Haney, maybe he's the favorite for Kambosos, but it could be Lomachenko. We just don't know. The bigger fight, the more money is with Lomachenko, but the winner is still not the undisputed champion, because Devin Haney holds the other half of the WBC belt. So for me, I would like to see Devin Haney and Kambosos too, but we might not get to see that next. So Devin Haney needs to keep all of his options open, because he might get disappointed. Now, number 2 is Teofimo Lopez, and Lopez, he is only at lightweight still because he hasn't officially scheduled his next fight, which he is overwhelmingly said is going to be at 140. I don't think he's returning to 135. His dad, himself, they've made the excuse that, they stayed at 135 too long, and that's why they lost or whatever. They've been feeling it. So I think they're gone from 135. I don't see Devin Haney and Lopez being possible. Even if Lopez stayed at 135, because it's top rank working with Matchroom, so I don't see it. Number 3 is Vasily Lomachenko. Now, here's an interesting one. I could see the WBA ordering Tank Davis to fight Kambosos, and then the WBC saying, okay, Lomachenko has to fight Haney to determine who the true number 1 is, and getting the undisputed title shot later in the year. I could see that going down, that deal being worked out, but we really just don't know right now. But Lomachenko is number 1 by both the WBC and the WBO right now, and he might be the one to get the title shot over Haney, and but I would love to see Haney and Lomachenko at some point. I'm leaning towards the less likely that it's going to happen next, but I do think it's very possible, just because you have Lomachenko as the WBC number 1 and Haney as the WBC champ. So if Kambosos is ordered or wants to go in another direction, like fighting Tank Davis next, the WBC might order Lomachenko and Haney to fight to determine who gets the next crack at the unified title against the winner of Kambosos and Davis. So that's all the moving pieces that I can see for the possibility of Haney and Lomachenko, even though right now I'd say it's less likely. Now, number 4 is Haney. Number 5 is Tank Davis. I don't see Tank Davis and Devin Haney coming together for a fight unless it's mandatory, ordered, or if they're the 2 last men standing of the kings in the division right now. That's the only way I see it. This is Matchroom working with the PBC. I don't see it happening. I honestly think Haney's a bad matchup for Tank Davis. I really do. The way he boxes and everything, his abilities. So I'm leaning towards the less likely right now. I'm not seeing this one. Number 6 is Ryan Garcia. I don't see Ryan still fighting Devin Haney. Even though these 2 guys could get left out in the cold. Both of them could. But I really think Ryan's going to come back, and he's either going to take a tune-up bout, or I could see him going after somebody like Joseph Diaz or Jorge Linares next to determine to move himself in position for the title again, a title shot. But I really think he's going to stay away from a Devin Haney fight in his next one. Excuse me, Jesus. I really think it's possible these guys could collide maybe in the second half of the year, but I don't see him locking horns in the first half of the year. So I'm going to say no to that. Now, number 7 is Jojo Diaz, a rematch. Not seeing it, no sense in it. Haney convincingly beat Joseph Diaz. There wouldn't be a point in him fighting him again. Number 8 is, who was it? Jorge Linares, a rematch with him. I'm not seeing this one either. I like Linares, but, Devin Haney beat him, and he beat him convincingly. And unless they ordered the fight and there wasn't another option, I think Haney won enough rounds to where, and there's not as many people clamoring for a rematch just because of how many rounds Haney won, that he doesn't have to fight Linares again. Even though Linares is fighting an eliminator in his next bout, I'm leaning against this fight being possible. If the WBC were to order it, I don't know if Haney would still want to do it, but he'd probably do it because he was forced. But I'm just leaning towards that it's not going to happen. Number 9 is Javier Fortuna. Now, this might have to be a possibility, just because he's the only one of the guys that is possible to fight. The fight's makeable, and he's still in the top 10. So this fight he might just have to take a fight against like Fortuna just to quote unquote stay busy, even though Fortuna's a top 10 guy. He might have to do it just because he's already beaten Diaz, he's already beaten Linares, and if he's got to wait around for Kambosos Lomachenko winner, you know, then you might have to fight Fortuna. And my two-way tie for 10th, I got Richard Comey, former world champ. He's a top-ranked guy, and he's coming off of a loss to Loma. It would be a step back at this point. It'd be a high-risk, low-reward fight for Devin Haney, so I'm not seeing it. And Isaac Cruz, he's with the PBC. I would love to see the fight, give Cruz another opportunity after a very valiant effort against Tank Davis. But Cruz is with the PBC, so I'm not seeing the PBC and Matchroom coming together for this fight. So to be honest, if he doesn't get the Kambosos fight, and that's handed off to Vasily Lomachenko, Devin Haney might be asked out in his first half, in the first half of 2022. He might not get a big fight like he wants. So I think Javier Fortuna would be possible. And outside of that, there's not many likely options in the top 10 for the first half of the year for Devin Haney. So if he wants to just stay busy, there's a name I'm going to throw out there that's still in the top 5 of the WBC. Frenchman Ivan Mendy. Mendy, he's a beatable guy. He's never had a title shot, but he defeated Luke Campbell years ago. He lost to him in a rematch. You know, Mendy's been banging around trying to get himself a title shot for a while, and nobody seems to look his way. I don't think he'd be a threat to Haney, and I think Haney would be able to stay busy against him and get a credible name, you know, in terms of the boxing world, get a credible name on his resume. Outside of that, it's really the best guys he could fight either wouldn't be available or they work with other promotions and it'd be a hard fight to make. So I think either Fortuna or Mendy if he doesn't get the Kambosos or Lomachenko fight. So we'll see what happens for Devin Haney. There's a lot of moving pieces, but he had a great win against Joseph Diaz in December, and we'll see what he does next. All right, guys, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, keeping it with the truth.